Harley, JJ, and Jada all come front and center for a camp report. Let's give them a hand. JJ, you went to CYF last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. Harley, JJ, you went to Haters. We just got home last night. Very, very good. So, JJ, why don't you start? Tell us what was like the high point of your camp.
Probably the dance and the dinners.
The dance and the dinners. Something about a guy of a certain age, like his age, food really, really resonates. we would do highs and lows every night, and I had to say to one student, like, okay, let's just assume food was your high. Can you come up with a second high so we can have a little deeper discussion? But the food was pretty good, right? What do you guys think? What was one of your takeaways from the scripture or from the kingdom? It's hard to pick one, but it's pretty accurate.
To love each other, act like a family, and not like a bad person.
Yeah, right? That's a fantastic life lesson. Harley or Jada, who wants to go first? You're going to ask the same question. Jada, let me ask you this. What was your favorite part about Haters? This is your first time going to church camp, right? Was it your first time?
Yes.
Okay. So what was your favorite part about it? You don't know? You like that? How about you, Harley? It was fun. What was one of the takeaways that you brought away from the camp? This is going to be around everyone. All right, so everybody gets together at camp, right? And this goes for 8th grade or high school, right? And you have all these different walks of life. Like you have jocks, and you have drama kids, and you have all kinds of. How much of that baggage do you bring the first day of camp? Would you say? None, really? Yeah. How quickly does all that stuff like fade away? Like how quickly do you become like
that.
Like a family, yeah, like that. You have like jocks playing with drama kids. You have like all the different spectrums that is in high school and junior high is even worse actually. Like all these little boxes that we put people in. But as soon as you get to camp, that kind of stuff is forgotten about, right? And sometimes people that you probably wouldn't chit chat with most in school, all of a sudden you're having deep conversations with them, really enjoy one of those company. That's one of the beautiful things I think about camp too. And so my takeaway is I am simply so proud of all of you guys going and listening. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I know it's weird to like quick tell your favorite thing, but I appreciate you guys going and representing our church and learning. I know you guys learned a lot. So I will let you guys off the hook. You can just sit back down. It's no secret that high school and junior high, there's a lot of social stratification, if you will. And when I go back and I work these church camps, I'm reminded that there's a lot of cliques in high school, and there's a lot of the in crowd and the out crowd, and what's cool this time. And it's funny, from Aiders Camp last year to Aiders Camp this year, these are kids in 8th grade going into 9th. What was cool last year is so uncool now. You know what I mean? And and now it's there's always something new, and there's new words that they use, new slang, new dialect. It changes every year, but it always interests me. I was just talking with the kids about how when they get there, you see these social stratifications that junior high and high school run off as far as the student body is concerned. They just kind of dissolve quickly, and it's beautiful to see that we can get past who we think we are, and even better, we can get past who people say we are. We can really just kind of live into what it means to be us, and we can have safe spaces and open environments to kind of explore how we're changing and how we're evolving as people, because each and every one of us, every single day is a new creation. Tish, what you got?
How do they manage to do that?
How do they
Where
manage?
school can't do that.
I think one of the reasons it works at camp and it doesn't work at school so much, and I think one of the reasons why it doesn't work in our society so much, it's a great question, is because we are profoundly spiritual beings. And at church camp, you give yourself the license to tap into something greater than you, to tap into a universal love, to allow yourself to see the God in the other person. And sometimes we got to be reminded of that, And I think that, and I'm not saying like we should have that, spirituality in schools or hear that and the other, but I think spirituality is something that we need to cultivate and nurture in each and every one of us. And I think that's why it works so much there. I think that's why it was working. I think that's what was not working in our scripture this morning. Like, I think that that's why Paul has to tell these people again and again and again that with all your diversity and with all the things that make you you, at some point in time you need to understand that there is a greater common humanity that we can all plug into, that we are all made in the image of God. And that what Paul is not saying is that get over what makes you you, or get over what makes you unique, or get over your ethnicity or your religion or how you think. He's not saying that. That makes you you. That makes you an individual child of God. That is good. But we are also have more in common than we don't. We are also all parts of this great humanity, of being children of God. He's not saying get over who you are. He's saying get past your division.
Dan,
Yes?
I also think when kids are in these cliques and in high school and middle school, it's hard. It's hard to be in those cliques, whether they admit it or not. You know, they like where they are, but it's really hard to keep up who everyone else wants them to be. And like JJ said, the minute you turn in that drive at Camp Wacombahoo,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it happens either. I mean, the spirituality, yes, but I felt like that on Aaron, always felt like that. And those of us, I was there over 20 years, and the minute you pull in that driveway, it is gone.
Yeah. And you're right. There's this keeping up with the Joneses kind of mentality. You got to keep up with your friends. If they're cool for this reason, so I got to be cool for that reason too. It's tiring, And we never outgrow that. We still do that. We just have adult versions of the same thing. You know what I mean? These people in the book of Galatians are pulling that same thing. They're trying to keep up with one another. They're trying to either be alike or different in one another in ways that are not healthy or functioning. I think we see a lot of it. It's hard. It's taxing. It just makes you tired on the inside. And I think Paul was sick of it. Galatians, read the whole text of Galatians. Paul is a jerk. He's very nice for about 2 seconds at the very beginning. Like, hello, how are you? No, let's get to business. And he just gives them the what's for. Because they're all bickering and going back and forth. And they're all like tearing one another down for who they are and how they think and the fact that they're different. And I think that's exactly what we are called not to do. We're called to transcend that, to live into grace, and to give space for people to be who they are, who they feel called to be. There was a book written by Eduardo Bonilla Silva, and it is a book called Racism Without Racists. And this book originally came out in 2003. It didn't solve racism, obviously. They had it come out again with some new content in 2006. They had it again, more racial injustice continued to happen. 2010 came out a new version. 2014 it came out again. 2018, another copy of it came out. Each time, several chapters are added to this book on how we might be able to get past the fact that we are a country that has never fully addressed racism in any meaningful fashion ever. Now, I know what some people will say, like, well, didn't we fight a civil war over slavery? Yes, we did. And the moment it was over, we instituted Jim Crow laws. The second it was done, at the bloodiest battle this country has ever seen, the bloodiest war this country has ever seen, as soon as it was finished, we instituted Jim Crow laws, like as if we had learned nothing. And the problem with us as a nation and being a racist nation is this, that every single superficial level of racism to address, we've managed to address. And nothing substantially has been done so far. Anything substantial about really shutting up and listening and learning and really putting yourself in the shoes as best as you can, because you can never know exactly what another person feels like, but doing our best to be fully present and to sit through very uncomfortable conversations that we might learn better so we can do better. That kind of work has yet to be done. It's a fact and it's a reality. And in this book, Bonilla Silva makes this point that for a long time, people would go around and they would say things like, well, I'm just colorblind. I love all people, which on its surface, I love, and that resonates with me. Like, I want to see past people's color and better understand who they are, but what that negates and what that takes off the table is the fact that your color is part of who you are. Your culture that you come from is deeply ingrained in who you are. The culture that you come from is what raised you and nurtured you and taught you to thought and taught you to live and taught you to love. You can't see past that. And you can't undo that because it makes it easier to have a discussion. Because by saying I am colorblind, what you're saying is I don't see the parts of your self that are difficult for me to deal with. That's where we find our text today. That's exactly where Paul is landing. Paul's not saying, get over being a Jew or a Gentile, get over being a male or a female. No, you're still a male and you are still a female. There's still all the gender spectrums in between that. And there was still slavery, and there were still slave owners, and there were still Gentiles, and there were still Jews. Paul himself never quit being a Jew. Paul was profoundly Jewish his entire life. A lot of people say Paul was converted. Paul, in the writings of Galatians, and the authentic Paul never converted. Paul always remained a Jew. He just had a new outlook on life through his encounters with Jesus and the God that Jesus revealed. My prayer for each and every one of us, my prayer for this church, my prayer for our county and our state, my prayer for our nation and our world is that we learn to look at another person and understand that they have a culture and they have where they come from and they have their way of upbringing and they have their way of seeing things. They have their way of living and loving and being and respecting them and understanding that they are too a child of God, lifting up them in all their diversity and understanding that we, despite all of our differences, are all children of God. And that we, all of us, despite our differences, reflect a God that is immensely diverse and complex, as are we all. So we are no longer Gentile nor Jew, slave nor free, woman nor man, or whatever spectrum of gender you fall under. We are all parts of humanity. We are all children of God. We've all been pushed and pulled and pummeled and preached to that at some point we need to drop our baggage, to let down our heavy load, and learn to listen and learn to love, to recognize that we oftentimes, when angry, overthink and overreact. We are no longer slaves nor free. We are no longer part of the system that is broken. We are a functioning part of the machine that makes justice and peace, that spreads love and well-being. That is who we are called to be as people. Unique and individual as you all are, keeping in mind that the culture and the context in which you come from is sacred and holy, but so is the person next to you. And that none of us have a monopoly on orthodoxy or orthopraxy, that each and every one of us are walking this good earth. And you can walk it alone, or you can look to the right, to the left of you, and see a child of God staring you back in the eye, walking shoulder to shoulder with you, in all their beauty, in all their diversity, in all their difference, and lifting one another up. What makes us different does not have to be a detriment. What makes us different makes us stronger and opens up new windows of possibility and new ways of understanding. These are gifts from God. Will we receive them? Would you pray with me? God, we thank you this morning for these radically inclusive messages of Paul. The edginess of Paul saying, get over all of your discrepancies and learn to live in love and learn to live into what it means to be a diverse family, community, diverse children of God. So let us live into that. Let us listen profoundly. Let our hearts be open to the people all around us. Let us not enforce our way of thinking or our way of being on any one person. Let us understand that unity does not mean uniformity. For it's in the name of Jesus that all of God's children said. Amen. So this is a way in which we practice inclusion every single Sunday. We recognize that all of God's children are invited to this table to partake of the cup, to partake of the bread, and remember this radical our diverse humanity, because we are all made in the image of God. So if you want to participate in the bread or the cup, all are encouraged to do so. We will sing our communion hymn, which is number 413.